Emotional weight, what you carry, and how to lighten the load. Introduction. Picture this. You're walking through your day, and on the surface, everything appears normal. You're getting things done, having conversations, moving through your routines. But there's something else happening beneath the surface. Something invisible, yet undeniably present. It's as if you're carrying a backpack filled with stones, each one representing a different emotion, memory, or unresolved feeling. Some stones are small pebbles, minor disappointments or fleeting worries. Others are boulders, grief that hasn't been processed, anger that's been suppressed, or shame that's taken up permanent residence in your chest. This invisible backpack is what I call emotional weight. It's the accumulated collection of feelings, experiences, and reactions that we carry with us, often without even realizing it. Unlike physical weight, which we can see and measure, emotional weight is harder to detect. We might feel tired for no apparent reason, find ourselves snapping at loved ones, or struggle to make decisions that once seemed simple. We might wake up feeling heavy before the day has even begun, or find ourselves lying awake at night, our minds racing with thoughts and feelings we can't quite name. The woman who carries the disappointment of a dream deferred, the man who holds on to anger from a childhood injustice, the parent who bears the weight of worry for their children, the friend who absorbs everyone else's problems. We all carry emotional weight. It's part of being human, part of having a heart that feels and a mind that remembers. But here's what's both beautiful and challenging about being human. We don't have to carry everything forever. Just as we can choose what to pack in a physical suitcase, we can learn to be more intentional about what we carry emotionally. We can learn to recognize when our emotional backpack has become too heavy, and we can develop the skills to lighten the load. This isn't about becoming emotionally numb or pretending difficult feelings don't exist. It's about learning to carry what serves us and gently releasing what doesn't. It's about understanding that some emotions are meant to be temporary visitors, not permanent residents. It's about discovering that we have more choice in what we carry than we might have ever imagined. Over the next hour, we'll explore this landscape of emotional weight together. We'll look at what it is, where it comes from, and how it affects every aspect of our lives. More importantly, we'll discover practical ways to lighten the load, not by avoiding or suppressing our emotions, but by learning to work with them more skillfully. Your emotional well-being matters, your peace of mind matters, and you deserve to walk through life feeling lighter, freer, and more at ease with yourself. Let's begin this journey of understanding what you carry and learning how to carry it with greater wisdom and compassion. Chapter 1. What is emotional weight? Emotional weight isn't just a metaphor, it's a real, tangible experience that affects us physically, mentally, and spiritually. It's the heaviness we feel when we are carrying unprocessed emotions, unresolved conflicts, or unexpressed feelings. It's the mental and emotional burden that accumulates over time, often without us fully recognizing it. Think of emotional weight as the difference between walking through your day, feeling light and free, versus feeling like you're trudging through thick mud. It's the difference between breathing easily and feeling like there's a constant tightness in your chest. It's the space between responding to life with clarity and reacting from a place of overwhelm. Emotional weight manifests in countless ways. It might be the knot in your stomach when you think about a difficult conversation you need to have. It could be the way your shoulders tense up when certain memories surface. It might be the heaviness in your heart when you think about losses you've experienced or opportunities you've missed. Sometimes it's the general sense of being weighed down, even when you can't pinpoint exactly why. Unlike physical weight, which we can see and measure, emotional weight is more subtle. It doesn't show up on a scale, but it shows up in our energy levels, our patience, our ability to be present with others, and our capacity to find joy in simple moments. It influences how we see ourselves, how we interpret events, and how we imagine our future. One of the most important things to understand about emotional weight is that it's not inherently bad or wrong. Emotions themselves are not the problem. They are natural, necessary parts of being human. The weight comes from what we do with those emotions. When we suppress them, ignore them, or carry them beyond their natural lifespan, they begin to accumulate and create that sense of heaviness we're talking about. Consider the difference between feeling sad about a loss and carrying unprocessed grief for years. The sadness is natural and healthy. It's how we honor what we've lost and begin to heal. But when that sadness becomes stuck, when it turns into a permanent weight we carry, it can begin to affect our ability to experience joy, connection, and hope. Or think about anger. Anger can be a healthy response to injustice or boundary violations. It can motivate us to make necessary changes or stand up for ourselves. But when anger becomes resentment that we carry month after month, year after year, it transforms from a natural emotion into emotional weight that burdens us and often hurts our relationships. The key distinction is between experiencing emotions and carrying them. Experiencing emotions is fluid, dynamic, and ultimately healing. Carrying emotions is static, heavy, and often self-defeating. When we experience emotions fully and allow them to move through us, they serve their purpose and naturally dissolve. When we carry them, they become part of our identity and story in ways that may not serve us. Emotional weight also differs from person to person. What feels heavy to one person might feel manageable to another. Someone who grew up in a family where emotions were freely expressed and processed might have different patterns of emotional weight than someone who learned to suppress their feelings from an early age. Our cultural background, personality, life experiences, and coping skills all influence how we carry emotional weight. It's also important to recognize that some degree of emotional weight is normal and even necessary. We need to be able to hold concern for our loved ones, remember important lessons from past experiences, and maintain awareness of our responsibilities. The question isn't whether we should carry any emotional weight at all, but whether we're carrying it consciously and whether it's serving us. Healthy emotional weight might include the appropriate concern you feel for a friend going through a difficult time, the motivation that comes from remembering past mistakes, or the protective awareness that develops from previous experiences. Unhealthy emotional weight might include carrying guilt for things beyond your control, holding on to anger that's no longer useful, or bearing responsibility for other people's choices and emotions. Understanding emotional weight also means recognizing that it's not static. It can change from day to day, situation to situation. You might wake up feeling light and free, then encounter a trigger that activates old emotional patterns, suddenly making you feel heavy and burdened. Or you might carry something for weeks or months, then have a conversation, realization, or experience that allows you to release it completely. The goal isn't to eliminate all emotional weight. That would be neither possible nor desirable. Instead, it's to develop awareness of what you're carrying, to understand where it came from, and to learn skills for working with it more consciously. It's about becoming the curator of your own emotional experience, rather than a passive recipient of whatever accumulates. As we move forward in this exploration, remember that recognizing emotional weight is not about judging yourself or your emotions. It's about developing the kind of gentle awareness that allows you to make more conscious choices about what you carry and how you carry it. It's about honoring your emotions, while also honoring your need for peace, lightness, and freedom. Chapter 2. Where emotional weight comes from. Understanding the sources of emotional weight is like tracing rivers back to their origins. Some of what we carry comes from recent experiences, while other weights have been with us so long, they feel like permanent parts of our landscape. By exploring where emotional weight comes from, we can begin to understand our patterns and develop more effective ways of working with them. Our earliest experiences often create the foundation for how we carry emotional weight throughout our lives. The family we grew up in, the messages we received about emotions, and the ways we learned to cope with difficult feelings all contribute to our emotional patterns. If you grew up in a household where emotions were welcomed and processed openly, you likely developed different patterns than someone who learned that certain feelings were dangerous or unwelcome. Consider the child who was told to stop crying or don't be so sensitive. Over time, they might learn to suppress their emotions, pushing them down rather than processing them. These suppressed emotions don't disappear. They accumulate, creating emotional weight that can last for decades. The child who was praised for being strong or independent might learn to carry everyone else's burdens while never acknowledging their own needs. Our upbringing shapes not just what we feel, but what we think we're allowed to feel. Some families have unspoken rules about anger. Perhaps it was only acceptable for certain people or in certain circumstances. Others might have treated sadness as a weakness or joy as frivolity. These early messages create templates for how we handle emotions throughout our lives. Shame is perhaps one of the heaviest forms of emotional weight we can carry. Unlike guilt, which says, "I did something wrong," shame says, "I am wrong." It's the feeling that there's something fundamentally flawed or unworthy about who we are. Shame often develops early in life, sometimes from a single incident, sometimes from repeated experiences of being made to feel small, wrong, or inadequate. Shame has a particular quality that makes it especially burdensome. It tends to hide, to convince us that we're alone in our struggles, that everyone else has it figured out while we're fundamentally broken. It creates a sense of separation and isolation that can color everything else we experience. The weight of shame often leads us to carry additional weights: the exhaustion of trying to be perfect, the anxiety of being discovered, the sadness of feeling disconnected from others. Resentment is another common source of emotional weight. It develops when we feel wronged, hurt, or betrayed, and we hold on to those feelings rather than processing them. Resentment can feel justified. After all, we really were hurt. The other person really did wrong us. But over time, resentment becomes like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It weighs us down while often having little to no impact on the person we resent. Resentment often grows from unprocessed anger. When we can't or don't express our anger in healthy ways, it can ferment into resentment. This might happen when we feel powerless to change a situation, when we are afraid of conflict, or when we have learned that anger is unacceptable. The original anger might have been clean and clear, but resentment is muddy and persistent. Guilt is another heavy emotion that many of us carry far beyond its usefulness. Healthy guilt can motivate us to make amends, change our behavior, or align our actions with our values. But guilt becomes emotional weight when we carry it for things beyond our control, when we hold on to it long after we've made appropriate amends, or when we use it to punish ourselves. Many people carry guilt about things they couldn't have prevented or changed. Parents might carry guilt about their children's struggles, even when they did their best with the resources and knowledge they had. Adults might carry guilt about childhood events, holding themselves responsible for things that were never their fault. This kind of guilt serves no constructive purpose and can become a tremendous burden. Trauma, whether large or small, single incidents or ongoing experiences, creates its own form of emotional weight. Traumatic experiences often overwhelm our ability to process them in the moment, leaving us carrying pieces of those experiences in our bodies and minds. The weight of trauma can manifest as hypervigilance, emotional numbness, anxiety, or a general sense of heaviness and disconnection. It's important to understand that trauma isn't just about dramatic events. Sometimes the weight we carry comes from smaller, repeated experiences, being consistently criticized, feeling unseen or unheard, or living in an environment of chronic stress or uncertainty. These experiences can create their own form of emotional weight that affects how we move through the world. Unexpressed emotions of all kinds can become sources of weight. This might be love that was never spoken, anger that was never acknowledged, grief that was never honored, or joy that was never celebrated. When emotions don't have a chance to move through us naturally, they can get stuck, creating pockets of heaviness that we carry with us. Sometimes we carry emotional weight that isn't even originally ours. We might absorb the anxiety of a worried parent, the sadness of a depressed friend, or the anger of a frustrated partner. This is especially common for sensitive people, or those who grew up in households where they learned to manage other people's emotions. We might not even realize we're carrying these borrowed emotions until we begin to examine what we're holding. Cultural and societal expectations also contribute to emotional weight. We might carry the pressure to be successful, the shame of not meeting certain standards, or the burden of trying to fit into roles that don't align with who we truly are. These societal weights can be particularly heavy because they're often invisible and seem normal or expected. Life transitions and losses inevitably create emotional weight. The end of relationships, deaths of loved ones, changes in health, career disappointments, and other major life events all leave their mark. Some of this weight is natural and necessary. Grief is how we honor our losses. Disappointment is how we process unmet expectations. But sometimes these emotions get stuck, creating ongoing weight that affects our ability to embrace new experiences. Understanding where emotional weight comes from isn't about assigning blame or dwelling on the past. It's about developing awareness and compassion for yourself and your patterns. When you understand that your tendency to carry worry comes from growing up in an anxious household, you can begin to work with that pattern more consciously. When you recognize that your shame has roots in early experiences, you can start to separate your worth from those old messages. The sources of emotional weight are as varied as human experience itself. What matters most is beginning to recognize what you're carrying and understanding that you have more choice in the matter than you might have realized. The weights you've carried for years or decades don't have to be permanent fixtures in your life. With awareness and practice, you can learn to work with them more skillfully. Chapter 3. How emotional weight affects you. Emotional weight doesn't stay neatly contained in the emotional realm. It seeps into every aspect of our lives, affecting how we think, how we make decisions, how our bodies feel, and how we relate to others. Understanding these effects can help us recognize when we're carrying too much and motivate us to develop healthier patterns. Let's start with how emotional weight affects our thinking. When we're carrying heavy emotions, our minds often become preoccupied with the weight itself, rather than being available for clear thinking. It's like trying to solve a complex problem while carrying a heavy backpack. The burden affects your posture, your energy, and your focus. People carrying emotional weight often report feeling mentally foggy or having difficulty concentrating. This makes sense when you consider that unprocessed emotions require mental energy to maintain. If part of your mind is always working to keep certain feelings at bay, suppress painful memories, or manage anxiety, there's less mental capacity available for creative thinking, problem solving, or simply being present in the moment. Emotional weight also creates mental loops, repetitive thoughts that cycle through the same worries, regrets, or concerns without resolution. You might find yourself replaying conversations, imagining worst-case scenarios, or rehearsing arguments with people who've hurt you. These mental loops are exhausting and often prevent us from engaging fully with our current experience. The way we make decisions is profoundly affected by emotional weight. When we're carrying unresolved emotions, we might make choices based on avoiding pain rather than moving toward what we want. Someone carrying shame might consistently choose options that feel safe but unfulfilling. Someone carrying resentment might make decisions based on proving others wrong rather than pursuing their own authentic path. Emotional weight can also make us risk-averse in ways that limit our growth and happiness. If we're carrying the weight of past disappointments, we might avoid new opportunities to protect ourselves from potential pain. If we're carrying anxiety about the future, we might make overly cautious choices that keep us stuck in situations that don't serve us. Decision-making becomes particularly challenging when we're carrying emotions that cloud our judgment. Anger might make us choose options that feel like revenge rather than solutions. Fear might make us choose what seems safe over what we truly want. Guilt might lead us to make choices that punish us rather than support our well-being. The physical effects of emotional weight are often the most noticeable, yet we sometimes dismiss them as unrelated to our emotional state. Emotions are not just mental experiences, they are full-body experiences that affect our posture, our breathing, our muscle tension, and our overall sense of vitality. Chronic emotional weight often manifests as physical tension, particularly in areas like the shoulders, neck, jaw, and chest. You might notice that your shoulders are always raised, that you are clenching your jaw, or that you're breathing shallowly. These physical patterns both reflect and reinforce the emotional weight we're carrying. Fatigue is another common effect of emotional weight. Carrying unprocessed emotions is exhausting work, even when we're not consciously aware of it. You might find yourself tired for no apparent reason, needing more sleep than usual, or feeling drained after social interactions. This fatigue isn't laziness or weakness. It's a natural response to the energy required to carry emotional weight. Emotional weight can also affect our sleep patterns. Unresolved emotions often surface when we're trying to rest, making it difficult to fall asleep or causing us to wake up in the middle of the night. Our dreams might become more intense or disturbing as our unconscious mind tries to process what we're carrying. The immune system can also be affected by chronic emotional weight. Stress and unprocessed emotions can weaken our body's ability to fight off illness, making us more susceptible to colds, infections, and other health issues. This isn't about blaming ourselves for getting sick, but recognizing that our emotional and physical health are interconnected. Digestive issues are another common physical manifestation of emotional weight. Expressions like gut-wrenching or can't stomach it reflect the real connection between our emotions and our digestive system. Anxiety, in particular, can cause stomach upset, while suppressed anger might contribute to digestive problems. The effects of emotional weight extend beyond the individual to our relationships with others. When we are carrying heavy emotions, we might be less available for connection, more reactive in conflicts, or more likely to project our unresolved issues onto others. Emotional weight can make us more sensitive to certain triggers, causing us to react strongly to situations that might not otherwise bother us. Someone carrying unresolved anger might find themselves snapping at loved ones over minor issues. Someone carrying shame might interpret neutral comments as criticism. We might also find ourselves attracted to relationships that recreate familiar patterns, even when those patterns aren't healthy. If we're carrying weight from childhood experiences of feeling unseen, we might unconsciously choose partners who don't really see us, recreating the familiar dynamic even though it causes pain. Emotional weight can affect our capacity for joy and pleasure. When we're carrying heavy emotions, it can be difficult to fully engage with positive experiences. We might find ourselves going through the motions of activities we once enjoyed, or feeling guilty when we do experience moments of happiness. The way we see ourselves is also profoundly affected by emotional weight. Unprocessed emotions can create distorted self-perceptions, making us see ourselves as more flawed, less capable, or less worthy than we actually are. Shame, in particular, can create a fundamental sense of being wrong or broken that colors every aspect of self-perception. Our sense of possibility and hope for the future can be diminished by emotional weight. When we're carrying heavy emotions from the past, it can be difficult to imagine a different future. We might feel stuck in patterns that seem unchangeable, or believe that our current experience is all we can expect from life. Creativity and spontaneity are often casualties of emotional weight. When we're preoccupied with managing heavy emotions, there's less mental and emotional space for creative expression, playfulness, or spontaneous joy. We might find ourselves feeling more serious, less able to laugh, or less interested in activities that once brought us pleasure. The effects of emotional weight can also show up in our work and productivity. We might find it harder to focus on tasks, less motivated to pursue goals, or more prone to procrastination. This isn't about being lazy, it's about the way emotional weight affects our mental energy and clarity. Understanding these effects isn't meant to overwhelm or discourage you. Rather, it's about recognizing that the vague sense of heaviness, fatigue, or dissatisfaction you might be feeling could be related to emotional weight you're carrying. This awareness is the first step toward making changes that can help you feel lighter, clearer, and more alive. The good news is that just as emotional weight can affect every area of your life, learning to work with it more skillfully can create positive changes that ripple out into every aspect of your experience. As you begin to recognize and release what you're carrying, you might find that your thinking becomes clearer, your decisions more aligned with your values, your body more relaxed, and your relationships more authentic and fulfilling. Chapter 4: How to Recognize Emotional Weight. Learning to recognize emotional weight is like developing a new sense, one that allows you to notice the subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways that unprocessed emotions affect your daily experience. This awareness is crucial because we can't work with what we don't recognize, and many of us have become so accustomed to carrying certain emotions that we've forgotten what it feels like to not carry them. The first step in recognition is simply paying attention. Most of us move through our days focused on external tasks and responsibilities, rarely pausing to check in with our internal experience. But just as we might notice when our backpack is getting too heavy during a hike, we can learn to notice when our emotional load is becoming burdensome. Body awareness is one of the most reliable ways to recognize emotional weight. Our bodies hold emotions in specific ways, and learning to read these physical signals can give us valuable information about what we're carrying. Start by taking a moment to scan your body from head to toe. Notice any areas of tension, heaviness, or discomfort. Pay attention to your breathing. Is it shallow or deep, easy or labored? Common physical signs of emotional weight include tension in the shoulders and neck, a tight chest or difficulty taking deep breaths, a clenched jaw, a knot in the stomach, or a general sense of heaviness or fatigue. Some people notice that their posture changes when they're carrying emotional weight. They might slouch more, hold their arms differently, or feel like they're moving through thick air. The key is to notice these physical sensations without immediately trying to change them. Simply observe and acknowledge what you're experiencing. You might say to yourself, "I notice my shoulders are tense," or "I'm aware of a tight feeling in my chest." This gentle noticing is the foundation of awareness. Pay attention to your energy levels throughout the day. Emotional weight often manifests as fatigue that can't be explained by physical exertion or lack of sleep. You might feel drained after social interactions, exhausted by decisions that should be simple, or tired despite having done nothing particularly taxing. This kind of fatigue often indicates that you're using energy to manage or suppress emotions. Notice patterns in your energy as well. Are there certain times of day when you feel particularly heavy? Are there specific situations, people, or environments that seem to increase your sense of emotional weight? These patterns can give you clues about what you're carrying and what triggers it. Your emotional reactions can also be indicators of underlying emotional weight. If you find yourself having stronger reactions to situations than they seem to warrant, it might be because those situations are activating emotions you're already carrying. For example, if a minor criticism sends you into a spiral of self-doubt, you might be carrying shame that amplifies your reaction to feedback. Pay attention to situations that trigger unusually strong emotions, a song that always makes you cry, a type of movie you can't watch, certain topics of conversation that make you feel anxious or angry. These can all be clues about emotional weight you're carrying. The key is to notice these reactions with curiosity rather than judgment. Your thought patterns can also reveal emotional weight. Notice if you find yourself stuck in mental loops, repetitive thoughts about past events, worries about the future, or imaginary conversations with people who've hurt you. These mental patterns often indicate unresolved emotions that need attention. Observe the quality of your thoughts. Are they generally optimistic or pessimistic? Do you find yourself frequently expecting the worst? Are you often comparing yourself to others or feeling like you're not good enough? These thought patterns can reveal underlying emotional weights like anxiety, shame, or unprocessed disappointment. Sleep patterns can be another indicator of emotional weight. If you're having trouble falling asleep, waking up frequently, or having vivid or disturbing dreams, it might be because your unconscious mind is trying to process emotions that haven't been addressed during your waking hours. Similarly, if you're sleeping much more than usual, it might be your body's way of coping with emotional overwhelm. Your dreams themselves can be valuable sources of information. While not all dreams are meaningful, recurring themes or particularly vivid dreams might reflect emotional weight you're carrying. Pay attention to the emotions you experience in dreams. They often reveal feelings you might be suppressing during the day. Notice your relationships and social interactions. Are you withdrawing from people you normally enjoy? Are you more irritable or sensitive than usual? Are you attracting or getting into conflicts more frequently? Changes in your social patterns can indicate emotional weight that's affecting your ability to connect with others. Pay attention to your capacity for joy and pleasure. One of the hallmarks of emotional weight is a diminished ability to fully experience positive emotions. If you find yourself going through the motions of activities you once enjoyed, feeling guilty when you do experience pleasure, or having difficulty being present during positive experiences, it might indicate that you're carrying emotional weight that's affecting your capacity for joy. Your decision-making process can also reveal emotional weight. Are you having trouble making choices that once seemed simple? Are you second-guessing yourself more than usual? Are you making decisions based on fear rather than desire? These patterns can indicate that emotional weight is clouding your judgment or making you more risk-averse. Notice your self-talk, the ongoing conversation you have with yourself throughout the day. Is it generally kind and supportive, or critical and harsh? Are you frequently apologizing, even when you haven't done anything wrong? Are you taking responsibility for things that aren't your fault? These patterns can reveal emotional weights like shame, guilt, or unprocessed anger. Your responses to compliments can also be revealing. If you find yourself deflecting praise, feeling uncomfortable when people say nice things about you, or immediately thinking of ways the compliment isn't true, it might indicate that you're carrying shame or low self-worth. Pay attention to your physical comfort and self-care habits. Are you neglecting your basic needs? Are you eating more or less than usual? Are you avoiding activities that normally help you feel good? Sometimes emotional weight manifests as a disconnection from our own needs and well-being. Notice your tolerance for stress and uncertainty. If you're finding yourself more overwhelmed by situations that you normally handle well, it might be because you're already carrying emotional weight that's reducing your capacity to deal with additional stress. Your creative expression and playfulness can also be indicators. Are you feeling less creative than usual? Are you taking yourself more seriously, laughing less, or feeling less spontaneous? Emotional weight often suppresses our natural creativity and joy. The goal of this recognition isn't to judge or criticize yourself for what you're carrying. Instead, it's to develop a compassionate awareness of your internal experience. Think of it as becoming a gentle observer of your own emotional landscape. Remember that recognition is a skill that develops over time. You might not notice everything at first, and that's perfectly normal. Start with whatever you can observe. Perhaps it's just noticing that you feel tired, or that your shoulders are tense. As you practice this gentle awareness, you'll become more skilled at recognizing the subtle signs of emotional weight. This recognition is not about fixing or changing anything immediately. It's simply about developing awareness. When you notice that you're carrying emotional weight, you might simply acknowledge it. I notice I'm feeling heavy today, or I'm aware that I'm carrying some sadness. This gentle acknowledgement is often the first step toward working with emotions more skillfully. As you develop this awareness, you might find that simply recognizing emotional weight begins to shift your relationship with it. Sometimes being seen and acknowledged, even by ourselves, is what emotions need to begin moving and transforming. Chapter 5, Release Practices. Once you've learned to recognize emotional weight, the next step is developing practices that can help you release what you're carrying. These aren't quick fixes or magic solutions, but gentle, sustainable approaches that can help you work with your emotions more skillfully. The key is finding practices that resonate with you and incorporating them into your life in ways that feel natural and supportive. Writing is one of the most accessible and powerful tools for emotional release. There's something about putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard that helps externalize what we're carrying inside. Writing allows us to give form to feelings that might otherwise remain vague and overwhelming. It creates a safe space where we can express anything without judgment or consequence. One of the most effective writing practices for emotional release is stream of consciousness writing. This involves sitting down and writing continuously for a set period of time, perhaps 10 or 20 minutes, without censoring, editing, or worrying about grammar or structure. The goal is simply to let whatever is inside flow onto the page. You might start with a prompt like, "What I'm carrying today is," or "What I need to release is," or simply, "Right now I'm feeling." Then let yourself write whatever comes up, even if it seems unrelated or doesn't make sense. Don't worry about being articulate or insightful, just let the words flow. This type of writing can be particularly helpful for processing anger, frustration, or resentment. You can write the letter you'll never send, have the conversation you'll never have, or say all the things you wish you could say. The act of writing these feelings down can help release the charge they carry, even if you never share the words with anyone else. Letter writing is another powerful practice. You can write letters to people who have hurt you, to yourself at different ages, to lost loved ones, or even to the emotions themselves. These letters don't need to be sent. The healing happens in the writing process itself. You might write a letter to your anger, thanking it for trying to protect you, but letting it know it's safe to soften now. Or you might write to your younger self, offering the compassion and understanding you needed then. Some people find it helpful to write what they call worry letters. Letters addressed to their worries and fears. In these letters, they acknowledge their concerns, but also remind themselves of their strength, resources, and ability to handle whatever comes. This practice can be particularly helpful for anxiety and anticipatory worry. Talking is another fundamental practice for emotional release. Humans are naturally social beings, and we often need to share our experiences with others to process them fully. The key is finding safe, supportive people who can listen without immediately trying to fix or change your experience. When you're looking for someone to talk to about emotional weight, consider who in your life is a good listener. This might be a close friend, family member, therapist, or support group member. The most important qualities to look for are the ability to listen without judgment, respect for your experience, and the capacity to be present with difficult emotions without trying to make them go away. Sometimes we hesitate to share our emotional weight because we don't want to burden others. While it's important to be considerate of others' capacity, it's also important to remember that healthy relationships involve mutual support. Most people who care about you want to know how you're doing and want to offer support when you're struggling. When you do talk to someone about what you're carrying, try to be specific about what kind of support you need. Are you looking for advice, or do you just need someone to listen? Do you want help problem solving, or do you need someone to validate your feelings? Being clear about what you need can help ensure that the conversation is helpful rather than frustrating. Talking to yourself can also be a powerful practice. This might sound strange, but many people find it helpful to have conversations with themselves, either out loud or in their heads. You might talk to different parts of yourself, perhaps having a conversation between your worried self and your wise self, or between your angry self and your compassionate self. Self-compassion is crucial in these internal conversations. Instead of criticizing yourself for what you're feeling, try to speak to yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend. You might say things like, "This is really hard right now," or "It makes sense that you're feeling this way," or "You're doing the best you can." Breathing practices are another accessible tool for emotional release. Our breath is intimately connected to our emotional state, and working with breath can help us process and release what we're carrying. When we're holding on to emotions, our breathing often becomes shallow and restricted. Conscious breathing can help create space for emotions to move and transform. One simple breathing practice is the long exhale. Whenever you notice that you're carrying emotional weight, you can take a moment to breathe in normally. Then exhale slowly and completely, perhaps making a soft ah sound as you breathe out. This long exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps the body relax and release tension. You can also try breathing into specific areas of your body where you're holding tension or emotion. If you notice tightness in your chest, you can breathe into your chest, imagining your breath creating space and softness there. If your shoulders are tense, you can breathe into your shoulders, allowing them to release with each exhale. Emotional breathing is another practice where you breathe with the emotion rather than trying to breathe it away. If you're feeling sad, you might breathe with the sadness, allowing it to move through you with each breath. If you're feeling angry, you might breathe with the anger, neither suppressing it nor acting it out, but simply allowing it to be present as you breathe. Movement can also be a powerful tool for emotional release. Emotions are energy, and movement can help that energy flow rather than getting stuck in your body. This doesn't have to be vigorous exercise. It can be as simple as stretching, walking, or gently shaking your body. Dancing, even if it's just moving to music in your living room, can be particularly effective for emotional release. You can dance with your emotions, letting your body express what words might not be able to capture. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Just let your body move in whatever way feels natural. Shaking is another simple but effective practice. Animals in the wild naturally shake after stressful experiences to release trapped energy. You can try gently shaking your hands, arms, or whole body, allowing any tension or stuck energy to release through the movement. Progressive muscle relaxation is a practice where you systematically tense and release different muscle groups in your body. This can help you become more aware of where you're holding tension and give you a tool for releasing it. You might start with your toes, tensing them for a few seconds, then releasing and noticing the sensation of relaxation. Then move up through your legs, torso, arms, and head. Creative expression in any form can be a powerful tool for emotional release. This might be drawing, painting, sculpting, singing, playing music, or any other creative activity that appeals to you. The goal isn't to create something beautiful or impressive. It's to give your emotions a way to express themselves through your creativity. You might draw your feelings, using colors and shapes to represent what you're experiencing inside. You might sing in the car or the shower, letting your voice carry emotions that words alone can't express. You might play with clay or dough, using your hands to shape and transform materials in ways that mirror your internal process of transformation. Nature can also be a powerful ally in emotional release. Spending time outdoors, whether it's in a park, by water, or simply in your backyard, can help put your emotions in perspective and provide a sense of grounding and connection. There's something about being in nature that reminds us of the larger rhythms of life and can help us feel less alone with our struggles. Water, in particular, can be helpful for emotional release. Taking a bath, swimming, or even just washing your hands mindfully can create a sense of cleansing and renewal. Many people find that tears, their own water, are a natural and healthy way to release emotional weight. Ritual and ceremony can also support emotional release. This might be as simple as lighting a candle and setting an intention to release what you're carrying, or as elaborate as creating a personal ceremony with symbols, music, and meaningful objects. The key is creating a sense of sacredness around the process of letting go. Some people find it helpful to create physical representations of what they're releasing. You might write your worries on pieces of paper and burn them safely, or collect stones that represent different emotions and then release them into a body of water. These physical acts can help make the internal process of release more tangible and real. The timing of release practices can be important. Some people find that morning practices help them start the day with a cleaner emotional slate, while others prefer evening practices that help them process the day's accumulation of emotions. Pay attention to what works best for you and try to be consistent with your chosen timing. It's important to remember that emotional release is not a linear process. You might practice these techniques and feel lighter for a while, then find that the same emotions return. This doesn't mean the practices aren't working. It means that healing happens in layers, and sometimes we need to revisit the same emotions multiple times before they fully release. Be patient and gentle with yourself as you explore these practices. Not every technique will resonate with everyone, and what works for you might change over time. The key is to experiment with different approaches and notice what feels most natural and helpful for your unique situation. Remember that seeking professional support is also a valid and important form of release practice. Therapists, counselors, and other mental health professionals can provide valuable guidance and support as you work with emotional weight. There's no shame in reaching out for help. In fact, it's often a sign of wisdom and self-care. As you develop your own collection of release practices, remember that the goal isn't to eliminate all difficult emotions. Rather, it's to develop a healthier relationship with your emotions, one where you can experience them fully without being overwhelmed by them, and where you can let them go when they're no longer serving you. Chapter 6: The Art of Letting Go. Learning to let go is perhaps one of the most challenging and liberating skills we can develop as human beings. It's an art that requires both courage and wisdom, the courage to release what we've been holding onto, and the wisdom to know what truly serves us and what doesn't. Not everything we carry needs to be carried, and not everything that happens to us needs to become part of our permanent story. The first step in learning to let go is recognizing that we have a choice in what we carry. This might seem obvious, but many of us live as if we're passive recipients of whatever emotions and experiences come our way. We might think, I'm just an anxious person, or I can't help being angry about what happened, or I'll always be sad about this loss. While these feelings are understandable and valid, they don't have to be permanent fixtures in our lives. Letting go doesn't mean pretending that difficult things didn't happen or that we weren't affected by them. It doesn't mean spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity. True letting go involves fully acknowledging our experience while choosing not to carry it indefinitely. It's the difference between saying that hurt me and saying that hurt me and I am hurt. The first acknowledges the experience. The second makes it part of our identity. One of the most important things to understand about letting go is that it's not the same as forgetting or forgiving. You can let go of anger without forgetting what happened, or even without forgiving the person who hurt you. Letting go is about releasing the emotional charge that keeps you connected to the experience in ways that drain your energy and limit your freedom. Consider the difference between remembering a painful experience and carrying the pain of that experience. When you remember something without carrying it, you can access the information and lessons from the experience without being pulled back into the emotional state you were in when it happened. When you carry the pain, thinking about the experience activates the same emotions as if it were happening again. Letting go often involves grieving, allowing ourselves to feel the full impact of our losses before we can release them. This might mean grieving relationships that didn't work out, opportunities that passed us by, or versions of ourselves that we've outgrown. Grief is not something to be avoided or rushed through. It's a natural process that helps us integrate our losses and make space for new experiences. Sometimes we resist letting go because we're afraid that releasing our pain means the experience didn't matter or that we're betraying someone or something important to us. A parent might feel that letting go of worry about their adult child means they don't care. Someone who experienced injustice might feel that letting go of anger means they're condoning what happened. But letting go doesn't diminish the importance of our experiences. It frees us to respond to them more skillfully. Letting go is also not a one-time event, but an ongoing practice. You might let go of something today and find yourself picking it up again tomorrow. This is normal and doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. Like any skill, letting go becomes easier with practice, and each time you release something, you're building your capacity to live more freely. One helpful approach to letting go is to examine what you're getting from holding on to something. This isn't about judging yourself, but about understanding the unconscious benefits of carrying certain emotions. Sometimes we hold on to anger because it makes us feel powerful or righteous. Sometimes we hold on to guilt because it makes us feel like we're doing something about a situation, even when we're not. Sometimes we hold on to worry because it feels like love or responsibility. Once you understand what you're getting from holding on to something, you can ask yourself if there are healthier ways to meet those same needs. If anger makes you feel powerful, are there other ways to feel empowered? If guilt makes you feel responsible, are there constructive actions you can take? If worry feels like love, are there more positive ways to express your care? The practice of letting go often involves a shift in perspective. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances, you can begin to see yourself as someone who has choices about how to respond to life's challenges. This doesn't mean blaming yourself for your struggles or pretending that everything is under your control. It means recognizing that while you can't control what happens to you, you can influence how you carry those experiences. Letting go also involves accepting impermanence, the reality that everything changes, including our emotions and circumstances. The pain you're feeling today won't feel the same tomorrow, next week, or next year. The situation that seems overwhelming right now will eventually shift and change. When we truly understand impermanence, it becomes easier to hold our experiences more lightly. Sometimes the hardest thing to let go of is our idea of how things should be. We might carry disappointment about how our lives turned out, resentment about how others treated us, or frustration about how unfair life can be. Learning to let go of these shoulds can be incredibly liberating. It allows us to work with reality as it is, rather than fighting against it. Letting go of perfectionism is another common challenge. Many of us carry the weight of trying to be perfect, to have perfect relationships, perfect careers, or perfect lives. This perfectionism often comes from fear of rejection, fear of failure, or fear of not being enough. Learning to let go of perfectionism doesn't mean accepting mediocrity. It means accepting our humanity and finding peace with being imperfect. The practice of letting go often involves developing trust. Trust in life's process, trust in your ability to handle whatever comes, and trust that you don't have to control everything to be okay. This trust isn't naive or passive. It's based on the recognition that holding on to things too tightly often creates more suffering than letting them go. Letting go of control is particularly challenging for many people. We might try to control outcomes, other people's opinions, or future events, but the truth is that most of life is outside our control, and trying to control what we can't control is exhausting and futile. Learning to let go of control allows us to focus our energy on what we can influence, our responses, our choices, and our attitudes. Sometimes we need to let go of relationships that are no longer serving us. This doesn't necessarily mean cutting people out of our lives, but it might mean releasing our expectations of them, our need for their approval, or our hope that they'll change. It might mean letting go of the relationship you wished you had and accepting the relationship that actually exists. Letting go of old versions of ourselves is another important aspect of this practice. We all change and grow over time, but sometimes we carry outdated identities or self-concepts that no longer fit who we are. You might need to let go of seeing yourself as a victim, as someone who's not good enough, or as someone who can't handle difficult emotions. These old identities might have served a purpose at one time, but they might now be limiting your growth and happiness. The practice of letting go is deeply connected to self-compassion. It's much easier to release what we're carrying when we're gentle with ourselves about why we've been carrying it. Most of us developed patterns of holding on to things for good reasons, to protect ourselves, to maintain connection, or to feel some sense of control. Honoring these reasons while choosing a different path forward is part of the art of letting go. Letting go is also about creating space for new experiences, new relationships, new possibilities. When we're carrying too much from the past, there's less room for the present and future. By releasing what we no longer need, we create space for what we do want and need in our lives. Remember that letting go is not about becoming emotionless or detached from life. It's about developing a healthier relationship with your emotions and experiences, one where you can feel deeply without being overwhelmed, where you can care without being consumed, and where you can learn from your experiences without being defined by them. The art of letting go is ultimately about freedom, the freedom to respond to life from a place of choice rather than reaction. The freedom to be present with what's happening now, rather than being pulled back into the past or forward into imagined futures, and the freedom to be yourself, without the weight of everything you've been carrying. Chapter 7: Creating a Lighter Life. Once you've learned to recognize emotional weight and develop practices for releasing it, the next step is creating a life that naturally supports emotional lightness. This isn't about avoiding all difficult emotions or challenging experiences. That would be neither possible nor desirable. Instead, it's about creating patterns, relationships, and environments that help you process emotions as they arise, rather than accumulating them over time. Creating a lighter life begins with developing emotional awareness as a daily practice. Just as you might check the weather before getting dressed, you can learn to check in with your emotional state regularly throughout the day. This doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. It can be as simple as pausing for a moment and asking yourself, "How am I feeling right now?" Or "What am I carrying today?" This regular check-in serves multiple purposes. It helps you catch emotional weight early, before it becomes overwhelming. It allows you to make conscious choices about how to respond to your emotions, and it helps you develop a more intimate and compassionate relationship with your own inner experience. Building emotional processing into your daily routine is another key element of creating a lighter life. This might mean setting aside time each day for one of the release practices we discussed, perhaps journaling for 10 minutes in the morning, taking a walk in nature during lunch, or doing some gentle stretching before bed. The key is consistency rather than perfection. Some people find it helpful to create what they call emotional hygiene routines, regular practices that help them process and release the day's accumulation of emotions. Just as you brush your teeth to maintain physical health, you can develop practices that maintain emotional health. This might include things like taking a few deep breaths before entering your home, writing down 3 things you're grateful for before sleep, or spending a few minutes in quiet reflection. The quality of your relationships plays a crucial role in maintaining emotional lightness. Surrounding yourself with people who support healthy emotional expression and processing can make a tremendous difference in how much weight you carry. This doesn't mean only spending time with people who are always positive or happy. It means choosing relationships with people who can be authentic about their emotions and who support your authenticity as well. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with different people. Some people naturally help you feel lighter, more yourself, and more at peace. Others might leave you feeling drained, anxious, or heavy. While you can't always control who you spend time with, you can become more conscious of these effects and make choices that support your emotional well-being when possible. Learning to set healthy boundaries is essential for maintaining emotional lightness. This includes saying no to commitments that drain your energy, not taking on other people's emotions as your own, and protecting your time and energy for things that truly matter to you. Boundaries aren't walls that keep people out. They're guidelines that help you maintain your emotional balance while still being caring and connected. Sometimes setting boundaries means changing the way you engage with certain people or situations. You might decide to limit conversations about certain topics, avoid spending time with people when they're in particular moods, or choose not to engage in activities that consistently leave you feeling heavy. These choices aren't selfish. They're acts of self-care that help you maintain your ability to be present and supportive in healthy ways. Creating physical environments that support emotional lightness is another important consideration. Your living space, workspace, and the places you spend time can either support or undermine your emotional well-being. This might mean decluttering spaces that feel chaotic, adding elements that bring you joy, or creating a quiet corner where you can retreat when you need to process emotions. Natural light, fresh air, plants, and other elements of nature can be particularly supportive of emotional lightness. Even small changes, like opening windows, adding a plant to your desk, or placing meaningful objects in your line of sight, can help create environments that support your emotional well-being. The media you consume and the information you take in also affects your emotional state. Constantly consuming negative news, engaging with social media accounts that make you feel bad about yourself, or surrounding yourself with violent or disturbing content can all contribute to emotional heaviness. This doesn't mean avoiding all challenging content, but it does mean being more conscious about what you're feeding your mind and emotions. Consider creating media boundaries that support your emotional well-being. This might mean limiting news consumption to certain times of day, unfollowing social media accounts that consistently make you feel bad, or choosing entertainment that uplifts rather than drains you. Remember that what you consume mentally and emotionally affects your overall state, just as much as what you consume physically. Developing a growth mindset around difficult emotions is crucial for maintaining emotional lightness. Instead of seeing challenging emotions as problems to be solved or avoided, you can learn to see them as information, as opportunities for growth, or as natural parts of the human experience. This shift in perspective can help you work with difficult emotions more skillfully, rather than adding resistance and judgment to whatever you're already feeling. When difficult emotions arise, instead of immediately trying to make them go away, you might ask yourself questions like, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What do I need right now? How can I take care of myself while I'm feeling this way? This approach turns emotions from enemies into allies, reducing the likelihood that they'll get stuck and become emotional weight. Creating regular opportunities for joy and lightness is just as important as processing difficult emotions. Make time for activities that bring you genuine pleasure, whether that's spending time in nature, connecting with loved ones, engaging in creative pursuits, or simply doing things that make you laugh. Joy isn't frivolous, it's a necessary part of emotional balance. Sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to experience lightness and joy, especially if we've been carrying heavy emotions for a long time. You might feel guilty about being happy when there are problems in your life or pain in the world, but experiencing joy doesn't mean you're ignoring problems or being insensitive to suffering. It means you're maintaining your capacity to be fully human, which includes the full range of emotional experiences. Developing practices that help you stay present can also support emotional lightness. Many of the heaviest emotions we carry are related to the past: regret, resentment, unprocessed grief, or the future: anxiety, worry, fear. While it's important to learn from the past and plan for the future, spending too much time in either mental space can create unnecessary emotional weight. Mindfulness practices, whether formal meditation or simply paying attention to your breath, your body, or your immediate surroundings, can help anchor you in the present moment. When you're truly present, you're less likely to get caught up in rumination about the past or anxiety about the future. Learning to trust your own emotional wisdom is another key aspect of creating a lighter life. You have an innate capacity to know what you need emotionally, what situations support your well-being, and what emotions are worth carrying versus what can be released. This wisdom might be buried under years of conditioning or outside expectations, but it's there. Start paying attention to your intuitive responses to people, situations, and choices. Notice when something feels right or wrong in your body, even if you can't explain why rationally. This intuitive wisdom can guide you toward choices that support emotional lightness and away from those that create unnecessary weight. Creating a lighter life also involves developing resilience, the ability to bounce back from difficult experiences rather than being flattened by them. Resilience isn't about being tough or suppressing emotions. It's about developing the skills and resources you need to navigate life's challenges without being overwhelmed by them. Building resilience involves creating multiple sources of support: relationships, practices, activities, and resources that help you maintain your emotional balance. The more tools you have for processing emotions and maintaining well-being, the less likely you are to accumulate emotional weight when difficult times arise. Finally, remember that creating a lighter life is an ongoing process, not a destination. There will be times when you carry more emotional weight, periods when life feels particularly heavy, and moments when you need to return to the basics of recognition and release. This is normal and natural. The goal isn't to eliminate all emotional weight permanently, but to develop the skills and awareness that allow you to work with your emotions more skillfully. Be patient and compassionate with yourself as you create these changes. Small, consistent steps are more sustainable than dramatic overhauls. Notice and celebrate the moments when you do feel lighter, when you're able to release something you've been carrying, or when you make choices that support your emotional well-being. These moments of lightness are both the result of your efforts and the motivation to continue. Conclusion. The journey continues. As we reach the end of this exploration together, it's important to remember that understanding and working with emotional weight is not a problem to be solved once and for all, but a lifelong practice of self-awareness and self-compassion. The journey toward emotional lightness is not a straight line with a clear endpoint, but a winding path that deepens and evolves as you do. You now have a collection of tools and perspectives that can help you recognize when you're carrying emotional weight, understand where it comes from, and develop practices for releasing what no longer serves you. But tools are only as useful as the intention and consistency with which we use them. The real work happens in the small moments of daily life, when you choose to pause and check in with yourself, when you decide to write about your feelings instead of pushing them down, when you set a boundary that protects your emotional well-being, or when you choose to let go of something you've been carrying for too long. Remember that this work is not about perfection. You will still have difficult days, challenging emotions, and times when you feel heavy with what you're carrying. This is not a failure or a sign that you're not doing it right. It's simply part of being human. The difference is that now you have more choice in how you respond to these experiences. You can recognize them more quickly, work with them more skillfully, and release them more consciously. The metaphor of emotional weight that we began with, the invisible backpack filled with stones, can evolve as you develop these new skills. Instead of unconsciously accumulating stones, you can become more intentional about what you pick up and how long you carry it. You can learn to examine each stone, understand its purpose, and make conscious choices about whether it still serves you. Some stones you might carry briefly and then set down. Others you might carry for a while as you learn what they have to teach you. And some you might release immediately, recognizing that they were never yours to carry in the first place. This process of working with emotional weight is ultimately an act of self-love. It's about honoring your emotions while also honoring your need for peace, lightness, and freedom. It's about being fully human, feeling deeply while also maintaining your capacity for joy, connection, and growth. As you continue on this journey, be patient with yourself. Change takes time, and emotional patterns that have been with you for years or decades won't transform overnight. Celebrate small victories, the moment you recognize tension in your shoulders and take a deep breath, the day you choose not to carry someone else's anxiety, the conversation where you express your feelings instead of suppressing them. Trust in your own wisdom and capacity for growth. You have everything you need within you to work with your emotions more skillfully. The practices and perspectives we've explored are simply ways to access and strengthen what's already there, your natural capacity for awareness, compassion, and healing. Remember that seeking support is not a sign of weakness, but of wisdom. Whether it's talking to a friend, working with a therapist, or joining a support group, reaching out for help is often an important part of the healing process. We're not meant to carry everything alone, and sharing our burdens with others can significantly lighten the load. As you go forward, carry with you the understanding that your emotional well-being matters. Your peace of mind is not selfish, it's essential. When you take care of your own emotional health, you're better able to be present for others, to contribute meaningfully to the world, and to live with authenticity and joy. The journey toward emotional lightness is not about reaching a place where you never feel difficult emotions. It's about developing a different relationship with those emotions, one characterized by awareness, acceptance, and skillful action rather than avoidance, suppression, or overwhelm. You have the power to choose what you carry. You have the ability to recognize when your emotional backpack is getting too heavy. You have the tools to release what no longer serves you, and you have the wisdom to know the difference between feeling your emotions fully and carrying them unnecessarily. The path forward is yours to walk, one conscious step at a time. Trust in the process. Be gentle with yourself. And remember that every moment offers a new opportunity to choose lightness over heaviness, awareness over reactivity, and compassion over criticism. Your journey toward emotional lightness is not just about you. It's a gift to everyone whose life you touch. When you learn to carry your emotions more skillfully, you model for others what's possible. When you choose to release what's no longer serving you, you create space for more love, joy, and connection in the world. When you treat your own emotional well-being with care and respect, you give others permission to do the same. The work continues, the journey deepens, and the possibility for greater lightness and freedom remains always available to you. Take what serves you from this exploration, leave what doesn't resonate, and trust in your own ability to find your way toward a life that feels lighter, more authentic, and more aligned with who you truly are. Your emotional weight does not define you, your past does not determine your future, and your capacity for healing, growth, and transformation is far greater than you might imagine. The journey toward emotional lightness is ultimately a journey toward freedom. The freedom to be yourself, to feel deeply without being overwhelmed, and to move through life with greater ease and joy. This is your invitation to begin or continue that journey, one breath, one moment, one conscious choice at a time.